America's Mayor live in the penultimate night before the debate. And what that means is the night before the debate. I'm sure you know that, but just in case some Democrats are listening. The everybody's getting ready. Everybody's getting ready, but it almost appears this way. But I'm gonna get you behind that later on when we go into more detail. I'm gonna put the microphone closer so you can hear me, which is actually not a bad. Thank you, Ted. This is a very helpful thing. It's my favorite microphone too that I get to use. Oh, I don't. My favorite microphone's in New York. I'm not hanging up.
Yeah, this is their second favorite microphone.
Second favorite microphone. But I don't know. Sometime I'm going to play one night one and one night another, and I'm going to have you vote on which is better. You might even make me cry. All right. So here we go. Debate looks this way from afar to those who are not on the know, and you are all in the know. To those who are not in the know, it looks like one is preparing too much and one is preparing too little. You know, there's a danger in both. You prepare too little, you don't know what you're talking about. You prepare too much, you come in tight as a drum. Like, for example, there's a difference between a great president in terms of debating, one a great president, one of our worst presidents, and why they lost their first debate as an incumbent. Ronald Reagan was thought to have lost his first debate to Mondale, which he obviously recouped secondly because he won an almost unanimous verdict. One state, but Minnesota, which everyone thinks he actually won, but just didn't contest because he's a good guy. They had him so prepared, like they were afraid he hadn't debated in 4 years, he'd be rusty. But the guy was an actor. The guy had been governor of California twice. He had had very, very high stakes debates, both with George W.H. Bush, and then a really, a debate that maybe put him on top with Carter. And the last thing he had to worry about really was him debating. But they always, even his own people sometimes thought, he's not the brightest guy. Mike Kelly wasn't the brightest guy. I changed my mind about that the first time I submitted a speech to him, and he sent it back to me. And then I had the great privilege of talking to him about it. And it was shortly before he was shot. And then I got to know him, not really. I mean, I had maybe 15, 20 contacts with him. That would give you a fair picture of it. But they were always very substantive, and he picked me three times, specifically to argue cases. So I can tell you he was a really bright guy, and I can prove it to you, just like I can prove to you that that Putin would not have invaded Ukraine if Trump were the president, and therefore the lives are all on the hands of our traitor of a president. But let me tell you about this one. This one I can prove to you because I want you to go read his love letters to his wife. Oh, it's a book about this big. It's beautiful. Love letters to Nancy. That's just beautiful. All written by him. That's all him. I mean, it's high quality writing. Okay. So they prepared him, and he came out, and they accused him of being too old, but that really wasn't the thing. He was overprepared. He was giving very complex, circumlocuitous answers because they had gotten him so deeply involved in these issues that the great talent that he had of describing things simply was just gone, and what happened to it. And it is not the same as the issue we have here with Biden of being demented. It is true that a decade later he got Alzheimer's, but that debate had no sign of it. But it did have a sign of a guy that was like nervous. Well, second debate, the real boss took over, Mrs. Reagan, Nancy, and she said, "That's it, throw them all out." She picked one or two people, like Mike Deaver for sure. I can't remember who else. Certainly wasn't me. But Mike Deaver and just a few like loose people who kept him loose, who kidded around with him, who watched sports with him, watched movies with him. He loved movies. And they went over issues and they went over answers, and they kind of deprogrammed him into the guy who could take something complicated and make it simple. And then, of course, nobody remembers the debate. I do in detail. But, of course, the thing that got him was when they're going to make it, he was a question about his age, and Mondale was all ready to pounce. You could see Mondale's face. He was not really a great debater and really had no business winning that debate. Of course, the press helped him also to win it. And not as bad as they used to be, but always bad for Republicans. And he said, well, I'm sorry, I do not intend to make age an issue in this case. My opponent's very young age and lack of experience. Place just stopped for a second. Mondale stopped for a second, exercising every bit of discipline he had in his body not to laugh and guffaw. And the whole place broke down. And the biggest laugh ever at a presidential debate. And then Mondale looked at him and sort of just acknowledged. It was almost as if he had given up the election. What am I going to do? The guy is a one in a lifetime type. So that's the danger of being too prepared. Then Obama showed up for the first debate with Romney, and boy, he didn't seem to remember anything. I think he went into that, probably somebody telling him, you've been president for 4 years. What do you need to prepare? You know everything. But it's like an exam, right? You go through the course for the year, you cover everything. But then when it gets to put up or shut up time, you gotta review it to remind yourself of what it was and to get it sharper so it comes out in the 2-3 sentences that you get, and not in some kind of rambling. To do that, there has to be some thought given to it in advance. Maybe if you're a trial lawyer and that's what you've done all your life, and a good one, you're able to do it. But even there, a presidential debate is different. You got more room to roam with a jury. Ain't much time to get your point across. And Obama lost the first debate. And surprisingly, Romney won it and got real close. And then I think they had at least 2 more debates. Maybe every single one of them, it was like Obama from a Republican, right? Obama licked the floor with him. Got a little help from Candy Crowley when she incorrectly said he was lying about something. And he wasn't. He was telling the truth. Romney, that is. But he was gone before that. That one killed him for the last debate, because it was like, losing heart at the end of the 6th game and then not having it for the 7th. So I think both are exaggerated. Here's what I'm telling you. They're not stupid enough to over-prepare Biden. They are much more interested in him being able to get through it. I don't think they're going to load him up with too much. From what I can gather about the disease he has from experts, right? You're not going to be able to load him up with too much information, or you're going to get him into a point where he doesn't remember anything. And you're going to start confusing. He's going to start confusing North Korea with Mexico. They'll keep him on simple themes, fairly repetitious statements. He can be aided. That's why they want the 2-minute quick out, because even back 4 years ago, if he goes beyond 2 minutes, he begins to wander. And I can show you that anytime you want. And now it's terrible. So that 2 minutes was definitely, and even though they know it helps Trump to the extent that Trump can't interrupt, Trump might actually be willing to give up that and try to discipline himself and let him go on for 3 or 4 minutes, and all of a sudden we'll be in Wonderland. But that's a big break for Biden. And they're going to try with both guys to make them looser and more humorous, if possible. Now, Trump can be humorous naturally. Biden, when he gets humorous, gets stupid. This is before he was demented. So I don't know, maybe you don't try to make somebody humorous who can't carry it off, ever. It's the worst thing. Better off not being humorous. Just don't be nasty. I would say for both of them, Mr. President, Mr. President, President Trump, don't attack his son. No need to do it. You might want to remind people of his lies and that he got money from his son. You might even do something that nobody in the press ever does, including our press. Remind him that there's evidence that he got money. The evidence comes from his son's text. And let him get you the text. It was in December of 2018. In the text, he said that for 30 years he gave half his income to his father. Let him answer that. Your son lying about that? Son lying to his daughter about that? That's okay. Just don't call him a bum or a scoundrel or whatever. And Biden, I think you're going to get killed if you refer to him as a convicted felon. I mean, everybody knows you framed him. Even the people who are voting for you because they hate him know you framed him. Everybody in prison knows you framed him. That's why he gets cheered when he gets near the prisoners. They don't. Some guy got all insulted over it's being racist. That the criminals like him now because he committed a crime. It means black people are all criminal. Like hell. First of all, when I got reported 2 times in the Fulton County jail, it was half black, but it was half white, and they weren't cheering me for that reason. They were cheering me because they all legitimately or illegitimately get race out of it. White guys feel this way. They've all been screwed, and that isn't true, but they all feel that way. I remember Maria met some guy that I convicted and gave a 35-year sentence to, who's now out and very religious, and he's almost like a religious, like a preacher. And he wrote books in prison about God and about Jesus, and he got himself out early. And apparently it worked. He's been a good guy, and we just met on the street. And he said, "You recognize me?" And I have a very good memory for that. Yeah. Tell me. And I told him exactly who he was and what role he played. And it was a famous case. And so now Maria's asking him questions about it, right? So we take pictures, and I wish him well, and I say, it's so glad to see. And he tells her I was fair in the prosecution, which was really nice. But then he does something that kind of contradicts it. I get distracted by one of his friends, and I get pulled away, and I see her standing there talking for quite some time, and I'm getting worried. A guy, after all, was. So I call her over, and we go over to the car, and she said, "Oh, he is so charming, and he was so good, and he said such nice things about you, but he did say that you got suckered." I said, "Yeah, how?" He said, "You believed those guys." She named the 2 guys. He really wasn't involved, and he believed those guys. And I just started laughing. I said, "You see, Maria, you just found everybody I put in prison was never involved." That's what I did. I just went and found innocent people, like Biden does. I went and found innocent people and put them in jail. And that was the real thing, because guilty people, anybody can put in jail. I said, "Come on, I'm going to take you home and we'll read about him." And you see, he's right there in Wikipedia. And there she looked at him, and he was a really bad guy, frightening guy. I think she got a little nervous spending all that time with him. But I mean, that's what happens. So they got one easy mission. They have to undo the stereotype that's been unfairly created about one, and absolutely fairly created by the other, and rejected by the Pravda communist press that covers it. So therefore, it becomes a question. If we had a free press, he'd be out of the White House under the 25th Amendment a long time ago. Probably when he got all those people killed in Afghanistan. We would have said no sane president takes the troops out before the civilians and gets the civilians all killed. And we would have taken them out so nobody else got killed. And maybe we wouldn't have had Ukraine if we did that. But you see, failure to act and being incompetent or dishonest in government is a matter of life and death. It's not a game. So Joe has to convince people that he's got a brain that is functional enough to handle the most important job in the world and to make some of the most sensitive decisions, all of which he's made wrong so far. And Biden and Trump has to prove to people that he's not the monster that Biden every day tells people he is. He can take away democracy. He's going to put people in jail. He's going to take away the First Amendment. I mean, he doesn't have to take away the First Amendment. Biden already did. The Democrats taking God out of America. I don't have free speech. They want to put me in jail for free speech. And not just me, my fellow lawyers. I don't have a right to advocate for him. I don't even have a right, even if you think it is, to exaggerate for him. There's no lawyer's ever been penalized for the kinds of things that we're getting penalized for. And meanwhile, the Bar Association, I'll give you in Connecticut, is trying to stop lawyers from attacking the trial that he was involved in Manhattan and saying you're ruining the system by explaining how unfair it is. I always thought when you brought out unfairness, you were helping the system. Who the heck ever heard of a verdict not based on a unanimous verdict? You're supposed to shut up about that? That's the thing that Trump has got to bring out. He's got to bring out that in a nice way, because I think the most important thing is temperament here. He ends up with a good temperament at the end of the debate, and he has won the debate. I would say that is as important, if not more important, than Biden making a screw up. And think of it this way. You always have to think of it this way. I mean, I did 11 presidential primary debates, and then if you count the rest of my career, probably another dozen. So, and I helped train people for them, participated in several presidential preparations, McCain's, his, and trained other candidates at different levels. It's impressions that are important, unless you make a big mistake that people remember. It's, oh, he looked really good. He looked in charge. He looked like what you want a president to look and feel like. That's the key to it. Now, this one's going to get spun afterwards. Let's say no big mistake by either one. Biden doesn't have a big senior moment, and Trump doesn't get angry and in a way that's offensive to some people. And it comes out with a win on the merits, on points for Trump. He just does a better job of making the argument that you were better off under me, and that'll be your future, than you are under him. Is it better to start our future from where we were 4 years ago or where we are now? And isn't it better to get us back to no inflation, no wars, and then start? Of course, we had America great again. Now we'll make it even greater than that. And I can do it because I've done it. And an awful lot of good people have run for this job on both sides. But none of them have been able to prove that they can do it or not do it. Well, you have someone here who has proven they can't do it. And you have someone here that's proven they can. And all you have to do, we just look at one thing. I left him a world at peace. He's given us a world at war. He's got one of those wars where he doesn't have an ending for it. It's a war without end, amen. It's a war in which we split up money with the Ukrainians, which makes you kind of nervous, right? And then second, he's got a war in Israel, and he doesn't want our friends to win it. So what is this crazy stuff, right? You didn't have that with me. Instead, you had peace accords that no other president was able to achieve. I mean, I think it's pretty telling that I left him a world at peace, and he's got a world that's tinkering on a world war. You don't want that. But it's got to be said the way I just said that, not in anger, maybe in despair, maybe hopefully, anyway. And maybe that'll get Biden to blow up. Let's go outside or something. Or I have a higher IQ than you do. Or one of the crazy things that the nut job does. And I would say that it would be worth reminding them of how he left them last time with lies, and that he was elected based on lies. And maybe shall we take a break, come back and play that so people are reminded of it before they get to see him lie? Because lie again. I will guarantee you, whether he has a senior moment or not, whether he does or not, he's going to lie his tail off. Oh, the first time you met him as a senator, he was lying, right? I don't know if there's been a day in his life that he hasn't lied. So if he doesn't lie, he won't be talking. then we got an issue. We'll be right back.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because we like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster, and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee.
This is Rudy Giuliani back again. So we're going to do an analysis of the debate in more detail in the second hour, and invite you to participate in it, including a couple of predictions and things to look for. But this is probably, as I said, the most important thing is on Trump's side is Trump's demeanor. I guess from Biden's point of view, really the most important thing is not to get caught in a debatable senior moment, even if they try to lie their way out of it and say that it's created. Just a mere debate over it will, I think, be enormously harmful, because most people do think. I mean, I think it's 60% think he's mentally unfit. So an argument over whether it is or it isn't a condition of dementia is probably going to lose that. So let's take a look at the one that you have to remember, because I know there's been tremendous discussion and also a lot of debate about the 2020 election being stolen, and should Trump bring that up or not. I don't think this is the time to bring it up personally, but I do think it's time to go to another way in which they defrauded. They defrauded by concealing for a year, covering up the hard drive, because it had been verified 10 months earlier by the FBI. So the man standing on the stage, you're going to hear say this, knows that every single word that he's saying is untrue. There are others too that we'll go over later tonight, like my family never got money from Russia and stuff.
Some more news on those 51 spies that came out today that we'll talk about as well.
Okay, and then this is the one about the earmarks of Russian interference, And then eventually it was conclusively determined that there was none, and that the FBI had known that, and the Attorney General and the directors of the FBI for months before Biden made this contrived charge. And you should know that this was orchestrated by Admiral Morell, remember the name, should go down in history as a traitor to America, and Stinkin' Blinken.
Race. We're talking about the issue.
Laptop from hell.
President Trump, we're
Nobody.
talking about race right now, and I do want to stay on the issue of race. President Trump,
And I
you've
have
just
to respond to that.
Please,
Because look,
very
there
quickly.
are 50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plant. They have said that this has all the five former heads of the CIA, both parties, say what he's saying is a bunch of garbage. Nobody believes it except his and his good friend Rudy Giuliani.
You mean the laptop is now another Russia hoax?
And
You
that's
gotta
exactly
be-
what.
Is this
that's
where you're
exactly
going?
what.
This
was
is
told.
where he's going. The laptop is Russia,
Yeah.
Gentlemen,
Russia.
I want to stay on the issue of race.
You
okay?
have to be kidding. Here we
Mr.
go
President,
again with Russia.
We're going to continue.
Notice how Christian Welker saves him. First, she tries to stop him from bringing the subject up. Right? Right? Look, everybody in the press knew it was his hard drive. Everybody did. They showed me that. They were covering it up because they don't want Trump elected. Christian's a very smart lady. She knew there was 80% chance it was true. It was too much to be made up by the Russians. There was too much of Hunter all over it. Too many, I mean, there were 8 substantial verifications done that I knew of before I prevailed on the Post to run it, and they verified it independently. Since then, of course, I would have done none of them if I had known that the Federal Bureau of Investigation, this was October of 2020, in December of 2019, the Federal Bureau of Investigation validated the whole thing. And all the operatives knew that. And in fact, there's good evidence that the FBI warned people about this coming out, so they had time to organize. You can see that Biden doesn't take up the issue of race. I mean, it's like she's offering him it's like a puppy you're trying to train. She's offering him a treat. Race. You can attack him over Charlottesville. Race. Do Charlottesville, dope. But he's got to come up with the one. I mean, that one was planned in advance. They did that all and scurried around in those 2 days, Morell and Blinken being the prime criminals who did it. They ran around in 2 days and got it. A lot of these people never read it, which tells you what complete phonies they were all throughout their careers. Might even explain how weak and why our intelligence was so weak, because these guys pretty much controlled it for the prior 20 years. You know, not picking up September 11, weapons of mass destruction, Benghazi. I mean, we're not saying they should have gotten all of them. Maybe 1 out of 3. But when you're spending your time screwing around like this, which is what you are if you do this, a man of honor and integrity says, I'm sorry, I don't sign that without looking at the hard drive. It's unbelievable what Democrats get away with. I mean, these people are scoundrels. They betrayed their country doing that because they didn't do any kind of due diligence on it at all. Right now, they should be ripped of their reputation. And he was programmed to bring that up. There'll be things like that the night from tomorrow. That one, he was programmed to bring it up because he insisted on it when a good subject was brought up. So let's watch and see what happens to that. Someone today, other than Donald Trump, did an article saying that the most important thing they should do in this debate is have drug tests. because their contention is that they riddling him up like crazy, if I have the right drug they were talking about. And you can see a difference in his eyes at different times when he speaks. You can see him in very different condition, can't you? There are times in which he looks like, my goodness, God forbid, he's going to drop dead right there on the stage. He walks, he's actually fallen down, and you wonder what happened. Like when the Air Force Academy, who knew if that wasn't a heart attack or something, or a stroke like he's had several of. And then sometimes he looks vital, but it's always like angry, over the top. And watch his eyes. A lot of times we'll dig these out for tomorrow when we prepare in real detail. We're going to do an extra hour tomorrow. I think we're going to start. Maybe we'll start tomorrow at 7 too. We're going to start at 7 on debate night for sure. Maybe tomorrow night too. And we'll show you the difference between the closed eye Biden, where you can hardly see his eyes. And almost always then he looks terrible. Looks like he just woke up or something. When he has that mark on his face from the breathing thing that he uses. To the one where, at the State of the Union or the last debate, where his eyes are really wide open. And the doctors say the pupils are dilated. Therefore, he's using, if not Ritalin, a similar kind of drug. And they believe he's using significantly high doses of it, which is why they take him down over the next couple of days. And we may not see a lot of, like we haven't seen him for 8 days. We may not see him for a couple of days. This is like getting Dracula ready for a debate, isn't it? So let's, there was an article written, I think it was yesterday, and I didn't get to cover it, and it's something, and I'm going to also do a special on this next week when we start my new show, where we have time for somewhat more in-depth interviews. I'm going to bring in an expert on this subject to give us even further information on it. But Biden is almost like following Iran's playbook in the Middle East. It's really, somebody has to get to the depth of what the heck is wrong with Obama and Biden being an ally to Iran, and a bigger ally to Iran when push comes to shove than to Israel. Now, how can I say that? Because it is stupid. It is stupid to say anything else. First of all, if we just go on money, he gives more money to the Ayatollah who kills people and is a terrorist than he does to Israel. He gives money to Hamas. I mean, they know that money's going to Hamas when they give it to that UN organization where half the people that work for are Hamas. But then they give it directly to Iran, and they're constantly, freeing up sanctions. And then right in the middle of this, they had a chance to not let sanctions run out, and they let them run out to the tune of about $5 or $6 billion. Kill a lot of Jewish people with $5 or $6 billion. Yeah, they killed a lot of money, a lot of people with Obama's money in 2015 and 2016 that he got to the Ayatollah. Ayatollah wanted it in cash. He wanted it in cash so Soleimani could spread it around more easily. Don't have to be a genius to figure it out. You don't even have to have written an article for the law review to get on the Harvard Law Review, like Biden didn't. So there's the article. The article is by Mark Toth and Jonathan Sweet, and it's a very provocative article, and I think it gets you to the core of one of the things that's going on here, and that isn't being called out. And as I said, we're going to go into depth on this with an expert. And what it is this is not he's not following the Israeli plan. He's not following what would be a plan in the best interest of the United States. He's following a plan where the net result of the things that he's doing is to make Iran the hegemon in Middle East, just like he's doing that with China. The only country that gets truly fabulously enriched by Biden's excessive green program is China. But just think about electric cars. If we do what they want, well, we'll destroy ourselves. We'll be in a depression that'll make the depression that our parents went through mild. To produce the amount of electricity we would need for cars, trucks, planes, military equipment, we'd have to maybe quadruple the amount of electricity in the world. And to do that, we'd have to use minerals that we haven't extracted yet. And those minerals produce in the extraction and produce much more carbon than what we're doing right now. Or if we produced it with oil and gas and considerably less exotic materials. And what we're doing is the ones we're moving away from are the ones we have. They make us rich, America. We stay with cars that are gas cars and improve them. We continue to get rich. We move over to electricity. China is going to make make 98% of the money on that, like they do on fentanyl. Could we have opened the border that way because Biden wants to make China rich? I don't know. I'm supposed to answer for a guy whose family got $31 million from China, and nobody in this country thinks to ask him that? What, do we don't have to protect ourselves anymore? So it's all. And this article basically points out that Iran right now conventionally can't go head to head with Israel, which is what that silly little dance produced when they invaded Israel and Israel hit them back. But Israel sent them a message in hitting them back. Israel got within a few yards, not literally, figuratively, of the Natanz facility, which is the one where almost definitely they're going to try to go down even further with their nuclear material. So no matter how big a bunker buster we have, we can't get to them. That's where they want to be. They want to be so they have, first of all, enough nuclear weapons to respond if Israel takes them out in the first round or tries to. Number two, enough of a nuclear defense to protect themselves against Israel. They're not going to beat them in an army. They could have 3 times the size of the army. They couldn't beat Iraq. I mean, and look how pathetic Hamas is. And yeah, I know Hezbollah gets, oh my goodness, Hezbollah is so much better. I don't, no. Just simply no. So they need a little more time. So what are they doing? They are using their proxies to wear Israel down. And they're beginning to step it up now in the north because they don't see much more of a future from Hamas. And if they keep it up with Hamas, they're going to lose it completely. Because Israel is probably correctly, if you were to be totally hard on it and pared down the Hamas numbers, they probably reduced a little less than half of Hamas. That's a big thing to take out half of the terrorists, but you're still leaving behind so far their number one leader. You have taken out a significant amount of their leadership, but you haven't taken out their most important people, their leader on the ground and their money people who are all off in Qatar and places unknown. And Qatar is protecting them. So right now, they're moving the action up toward the north, and it looks like Israel's making a transition. And this could be, America is telling them, leave Hamas alone. Leaving Hamas alone is playing by the Iran plan, which is so that they will have maybe reduced by half, but still a proxy to fight for them there. We have only one proxy, and that's Israel, and we don't allow them to fight. And then they're going to try to get Israel engaged with Hezbollah, again, just to reduce Israel's capacity, and also to probe, see where the strengths and weaknesses are. Maybe Israel put up such a good defense and acted so swiftly, even with America holding them back, that they say, we need a little more time. But now they know what they need. But we're playing into their hands by not letting Bibi wipe them out. Because they're going to be around 5 years from now when Iran has its time to get where it wants to get, and when China has its time to get where it wants to get. So we'll be back in a moment, and we'll take a look at a horrendous hostage situation. So you once again get an idea of who these people are protesting for. For example, that criminal of a prosecutor, Bragg, released today or yesterday when he framed the former president of the United States in one of the most disgraceful cases in the history of America, for which he should be disbarred or suspended by the Bar Association that's trying to suspend me for doing nothing other than my job. We'll be back shortly.
We're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50%, and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
Back.
Well, we're back with you, and it's very difficult to get through the massive propaganda that obviously infects so many of our campuses, Ivy League and beyond, that has made somehow almost impossible to do the Palestinians into heroes. I mean, Hamas is a recognized terrorist group, and Hamas kills women and children and their own people. The Palestinians are to a large extent allied with them or with Fatah. And if they're with Fatah, they're with a former vicious group that killed scores of Americans who were massive thieves and continue to be. The money that's given to Palestine over the years is enough to make Palestine as richer than Israel. But they never got the money. Arafat and the Fatah people and now the Hamas people run away with it. The Hamas people are all billionaires living somewhere that Qatar knows, but we don't. But you need to be reminded that what they did on October 7th wasn't just an invasion. This was a terrorist attack. They ripped children apart. They raped people. So here's a video of three Israelis being taken that day. Now, just take a look at the way this thing went down. I think one of these is an American, Hirsch Goldberg Pollen.
Yeah, we're bringing it up. We just got to find the right one.
Hirsch Goldberg Pollen is 23 years old. He's the one that Biden recognized about a month ago at the White House when he was trying to say something about the hostages after hundreds of days of not mentioning them. And of course, it was ridiculous because he didn't know that Hirsch Goldberg Bolin is still a hostage, had
Hirsch is in
actually
the
been
back
on a
of a
video
pickup
that he had
truck
seen.
as Hamas terrorists
And
race
that's
into
what he was
Gaza.
responding
One of
to,
the
and
then gunmen
he
heard
greeted him
saying
in the
he
audience.
wants a selfie with him.
I don't know. We really
Hirsch's
have to
parents
have a
spoke to
debate to
ABC
prove that
News
he's
about
demented.
Here's a video that we have. Here's a video that we have. He's in this truck.
They're rushing him out. They're rushing him out of Gaza.
Right here, right here.
And, you know, it's about a 7-mile ride.
You see it? That's it, right?
Keep going. Those are his parents, of course, who are devastated.
That's the video I have. Is there others?
Well, all right. I think that sort of gets you the idea of it. It's similar to the ones that we have of some of the young ladies who were taken out that way. I mean, here's a horrible picture of him, just focused in on him, that you might be able to see.
Yeah, we have him.
Do you have that?
Yeah, I'm gonna bring it up here.
I'll just show it to you. This is Hirsch. Say a prayer for him, huh? And all the rest of them. Who knows what they're doing to them?
Here he is. A different time.
That's a different picture, but this one gives you a sense of what they did to him, Ted.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good contrast.
Did you show that?
Yes.
I just want to make sure they got to see that, because this is what Israel is up against. This is what they're fighting. Now, Bibi says that Bibi told his cabinet that the drop occurred in U.S. arms, significant portion of U.S. arms going to Israel 4 months ago, and that and certain items arrived sporadically, but the munitions remained behind. So they've been able to accomplish this, being double-crossed by Biden, because they weren't doing a ceasefire. Now, he did it to them on purpose. When we get to the Ukraine, look, Biden, go lie to somebody else. You do not support Israel. You do not support the Jewish people. You don't give that kind of money to a country that wants to destroy them. In fact, it only exists to destroy Jews in Israel and Americans, and you give money to them. So go tell somebody else that you support Israel. I don't think the Jewish people believe you anymore. They're too damn smart. At least the ones that I know don't believe you anymore. And some of them are voting for Trump and thought they in a million years would never vote for Trump. And, you know, it's going to be the smartest vote they ever made. And like a lot of people who voted for Trump last time or the time before, they said, thank God we did. He's going to turn out to be a really, really great president. Man doesn't go through what he went through and not turn out to be. I mean, when you go through something like that, you either get crushed or you become a greater man. And he's become a greater man. I know him for a long time. This is the best he's ever been. And to me, he's always been a decent man. So I'm not making some kind of a thing like, oh, he was a bad guy. I've supported him immediately in 2015 for president. I exhausted myself for 5 months with him, close to 24 hours a day. Then, of course, volunteered to defend him, for which I have been completely ruined. I don't regret it. I didn't have any other choice that I could make. I'll explain that in my book when we have time for it. But don't look at me with pity. Look at me as having done what my conscience told me to do. I'm one of those people, you know, who can look in the mirror at night and say, I'm proud of myself. It may be I'm unhappy about some of the circumstances for my friends, for my family, for me. Of course I am. Gosh, I mean, prosecuting a wonderful lawyer and wonderful man like Professor Eastman. I mean, gosh almighty, the guy fell asleep working twice in my bedroom. on briefs. I put a blanket around him. I went into the other room and I came and woke him up with a cup of coffee in the morning. It's like I was taking care of my grandfather, and he isn't that much older than me. But he's just a very sweet, good man. And the process, they want to put him in jail until he's dead. So Bibi says they didn't give us arms. So do all the leaks out of the White House say the same thing, which the Post has documented today. What a scoundrel. Holding back arms after promising them to Israel. People dying because you don't get them the arms they were promised. Bibi is smart enough probably to know you're a scoundrel. Doesn't look like he got hurt too much by the fact that you were holding them back, because he probably figured when you said you were going to give him 14 billion, you're going to put heaven in your pocket somehow or other. Now you gave Israel 14 billion, which sounds like a lot, but you gave the other guys who have no plan of winning 60 billion. When you gave that 14 billion to Bibi, he gave you a plan. I'm going to wipe out Hamas. Zelensky give you a plan? What? What's the plan? To hold the territories? Make sure Russia, you don't really believe that they can push Russia out of Ukraine, do you? And they themselves, when they leak on you, because nobody likes you, and Zelensky knows more than most what a big crook you are, what a dishonest man you are. He knows about the massive bribe you were involved in with his crooked president. But he's unfortunately crooked enough to keep it silent also, which makes you wonder what's happening to the money, and particularly since you won't put any account on it. Well, you are consigning us to a war without end, which you guys did in Vietnam. I mean, the party of slavery, the Democratic Party. Now Ukraine made a couple of bold hits recently once they got the new armaments, both the new drones and the new missiles. But one of the missiles they use, the ATACMS, supposedly we told them they could not use against the Russians in Ukraine or against them in Russia. I know we made a slight amendment to that. I don't know if it included this particular weapon, because we allowed them to hit a mile or two over the border near Kharkiv, because they're attacking us from Kharkiv and we're not able to strike back. The weapons that the Ukrainians have to strike back are not adequate. Now, what are you playing that game for? What evil game is that? I know my position on Ukraine. And I know my position was very different than yours from the beginning. I don't think if I were president, they'd be there. In fact, I know they wouldn't be there. And I know for sure they wouldn't be there if the president who should have been president, but for all of your cheating, was there. I look at the vice presidential candidates that we're thinking about right now, every single one of them, Republican presidential candidates. It wouldn't have been there under Marco Rubio. It wouldn't have been there under Ben Carson. It wouldn't have been there under the Governor Burgum. And I don't want to miss anybody. And they wouldn't. Oh, gosh, they wouldn't be under there on Vance. Wow. He's probably he. From my point of view, he actually goes too far on Ukraine. I've got nothing against Ukraine, the people. In fact, I have a tremendous affection for them because I am in a position to know them. I work there. Kharkiv is my favorite city, and I'm so proud of it for having fought off the Russians, even without getting the proper arms from the traitor, stab you in the back Biden. But now they're getting really hit. And they got these new weapons, and they weren't able to use it. And then he gave them permission to use them 2 miles into Russia, but no further. And as far as I can tell, they don't have permission to use them inside Ukraine. So where did they use them? They used them in a place called Crimea, which when we come back, I will explain to you the complexity of Crimea, because it is complex, and it's going to be a big issue because the Russians claim that we are responsible for the attack. They come up with a number of civilians and children that were killed. No proof of that. Of course, they have killed without even thinking about it, scores of Ukrainian children and innocent people. In fact, all the villages they went into were innocent people where they slaughtered. The people in Kharkiv that he's slaughtering, some of whom I know, are innocent people. They're not military. That doesn't mean it makes it right for somebody else to do it, but it is as long as it's collateral damage to war legitimately, it's not a war crime. Gosh almighty, I mean, I think I gave you the statistics on the Battle of Gettysburg, but almost as many civilians died at Gettysburg as soldiers. Yeah, soldiers, South and North. We'll be right back. Delivers on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. John is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org. Please donate now. This is Rudy Giuliani. I'm back with you, and we're going to complete our discussion now as we go into a little more detail in the second soccer hour here about Ukraine, because this area that Ukraine hit is, of course, the critical area. The critical area for Russia. This is why they did the first invasion, and it's a fascinating. I mean, it really is a fascinating situation that is not easy. So, if you can see that map right there, I think you can see it all. Maybe you take it a little higher up. We'll give them a little more room, so they get to the end of the map. There it is. There it is. That's good. Yeah, keep going up, because the pointer, I can show them. So off to this side, right and left gets kind of confusing here. Off to this side here, over here, you might as well move it a little like this, because we're going to be working. We're going to be sort of favoring this side here. So you can take out. No. There. Here. That's okay. That's okay. That's what I want. I want that white space out there. Okay. Now, okay. So that all that white space that you see right there, huh? That's Russia. That's Russia, and this is the ocean, or the sea. Okay, so Russia. This is Crimea down here. So now I'll push it up a little further. There's Crimea, right down to the gray. That's Crimea, okay? And the whole idea of this invasion, because they weren't able to accomplish it in 14, is, and Kharkiv is up here, right up there. They wanted to take all of this, from this down, okay? They wanted to take from this down to give them a corridor where they don't have to go through Ukraine to get to Crimea. Okay, so this is how Ukraine obtained all of this, okay? The central part of Ukraine, just that yellow part here, okay? That has been part of Ukraine since 1654. Okay? 1654. The next part of Ukraine was picked up also in 1654. There it is, added. That's northern Ukraine, okay? But in 1917, it became part of the Soviet Union. It became part of Russia, not the Soviet Union. This all became part of the Soviet Union. The area over here in 1922 became officially part of Russia, Ukraine being here, okay? And this Crimea was always part of Russia. In fact, they had a submarine base in Crimea, and it was a favorite place for Russians. And then if we go over way to the other side, we'll see territory they took from Poland. Okay, so that's how it was cobbled together. Now, after the two invasions, this is what happens to Ukraine. You can even put it up like this if you want.
No, I got it. Yeah, I want to do it.
Okay. A little more this way. Okay, that's good.
I'm trying to get rid of the blank space beneath.
All right, that's good. I don't mind having it because I'm going to show them something on there. Now, again, here's Russia. This is Kharkiv right there. You see it's not taken. Only the red part is taken, okay? Now, the two dark red parts are taken and annexed. The lighter red, or the lighter whatever color that turns out being now, is it's designated as Russian constitutional areas. The darker red is part of Russia. So Crimea, and over here, which is where Donetsk is located, is part of Russia. And this is like, call it colonies. And then we have Ukraine. And blue is the area thereafter. So what Ukraine did is hit here, right here, in Sevastopol, on the beach. You could, if you saw the pictures, you'll see they're running off the beach. And they hit them with, they claim to have the rockets. They hit them with rockets recently acquired from the United States, that where the understanding, now I don't think this understanding was with Russia, but how do I know? With Biden, right? The understanding with Ukraine was they would not be used against the Russians. In fact, we didn't give them for a very long time because we didn't want them used against the Russians. Then a few weeks ago, because let's go back to the map one more time, because a few weeks ago, Russia began a heavy assault, a very, very heavy assault on this blue area, right across. Kharkiv is 10 or 20 miles from Russia. So they started a tremendous assault on it, and by air this time, because they weren't doing much by military. So Ukraine prevailed on the Biden, I guess, or I don't know if he makes these decisions. He probably does it on somebody, Carter or someone, that they could use the new, much better, much more effective, much more lethal rockets. But they had to use it within a 2-mile area here because they were retreating over here or shooting from there. And for a week or so, we've been doing that with tremendous complaints from Ukraine that it isn't accomplishing very much because they just go back more than 3 miles and pound the living daylights out of them. I think if I have it correct, it is my, I always thought he was going to try to move over to Odessa, which is down here. But I think he wants to complete what he started when he goes into negotiations, because I suspect that he'll give some away. But you always wanted to have the most you can have before you start to give away. It's like when there's going to be an armistice, everybody tries very hard to grab as much land as possible. My guess is that's what he's doing right now. Don't be surprised if the retaliation, which they have now promised, won't be something useful to them, like trying to make a move for Odessa. Right here. This has always been rather Russian. It gives them a great capacity on the sea, right? They have it dominated. And they could essentially block Ukraine from the sea. I assume in their big master plan, it was to get there, and the Ukrainians stopped them. So that's where I think they're going. And right now, you'd have to question, and we might do it. We might do it in the next couple of nights as we get more information as to whether this was a smart thing to do. If you're not ready to really launch an offensive to get them the hell out of there, because you're never going to take if you take this back, you will have effectively thrown them out. This is the last thing they'll give back. Everything else, the places in red, they're not giving back. They've already made it part of Russia, so you know that. The place in blue, which they don't have now, they may be trying to acquire so they can give it back. They're going to have to keep this main part here. So what's negotiable? Maybe from here over to here is negotiable. And this could have been negotiable if they could have gotten it. So who's to say they're not going to try? It is really, really sad to see that we let Ukraine get into this and never had any intention of having them win this. It has never given them the arms to make it possible to take that out. Well, you do know that Julian Assange has been released. Well, strange deal that was made. He pled guilty in Europe, virtually, to an American charge, which turns out, after all this, to be a misdemeanor. And he was sentenced to time served. So he was let out, and he is on his way back to Australia now. And it's a very, very interesting thing about him. Did he commit the unbelievably terrible crime that he's accused of and gotten people killed and whatever? On the other hand, did he also, like the Pentagon Papers, give up information that America never would have known about? And is he, in a certain way, a hero of establishing the deep state? I mean, you can't look at his documents and not realize there's a deep state. Who knew that they were going to just turn completely on Trump and conduct something like out of the War of the Worlds against him? But when you have animals like Brennan and all those people who signed, the 51 who signed, who've been giving away America for a long time, I guess it doesn't matter. I mean, the damage. I wonder during the debate if they're going to discuss the alien crimes that are going on. Today it was revealed that that the animal who killed little Jocelyn, the 12-year-old in Houston, Franklin Jose Pena Ramos and Johan Jose Rangel Martinez, that they tortured her or held her for a long, long time before they killed her. They lured her under a bridge where they stripped her naked to the waist and assaulted her for 2 hours. Thanks, Biden. Thanks, Biden. They wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. They wouldn't be here if you let Abbott do what he wanted to do. You didn't even have to do anything. Just let the governor do what he wanted to do. Boy, that governor is one hero. I'll tell you that. Without him, New York could be, oh, yeah, let them come in. They can stay in Texas. Or I bet Martha's Vineyard is against them now. When they took their little visit up to Sanctuary City with the Brahmins there. Oh, get those brown people out of here quickly. We don't want them around. Clean every place they were at. That's where Prince Obama lives, with the little bit of money that he made as president. One of his mansions, at least. And they killed her under the bridge. Just one of, a number of killings last week. There was a pretty good attempt to try to hide this one as a migrant killing. And it was a migrant killing. They want non-citizens to vote. So America First Legal is now bringing a lawsuit to prevent that. And just in case you think, I used to think at one point that was an exaggeration by my people. I couldn't imagine how you'd want non-citizens to vote. First of all, I don't understand how you can do it under the Constitution. But even then, I don't understand how you can have a nation if you let non-citizens vote. That's what a nation is made up of people who are tied to something common that makes them a nation. Now, some people are tied by a common language or a common background of 1,000 years or 2,000 years. Some are tied by a common religion, some race, some combination of those three. We don't have any of that. But we are tied together by something that I always thought was stronger. And so did Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln defined it better than any American president. He did this, I think, when he was presiding over an immigration ceremony. And the debate was between a guy who just become a citizen and somebody whose family had come over on the Mayflower and it was holding it over him. You'll never be an American like I am. My family came over on the Mayflower. And the immigrant said, is that true, Abe? I think he was a lawyer. He may have been. I'm not sure he was president then, but he said, that's absolutely untrue. You could very well be a better American. Oh, but I just became one. America, he said, not race, religion, whatever. What ties us together? Common beliefs. Simple ones, but profound ones. And ones that nobody can touch because they come from the Almighty. And they're basically in the First Amendment, the ones that Biden has taken away from us. The right of a fair trial, which if you consider what Trump got, a fair trial, then you're not an American. If you consider what I got, you haven't seen it yet. But if you think what I got in District of Columbia was a fair trial, forget it. Or any of these other people. You think Navarro got a fair trial? What the heck's Navarro doing in jail, but not the Attorney General? It's far worse than he did. What's Biden doing out and Trump on trial for a couple of papers that were classified that were harmless? You know, if they weren't harmless, they'd have been leaked by the scoundrels running the case. I mean, Garland selected his most unethical prosecutors to run this case, ones that were really dressed down by the Supreme Court 9-0. What do you pick a guy like that to run this case, and you're not telling me you don't want it to be unfair? That's all he knows. So this is what they're after. They're after non-citizens voting. The City Council of New York, that's where that guy Bowman came from, I think. You know, the one who's going to get beaten tonight, God willing. Bowman is the one who set off the
fire alarm.
Who set off the fire alarm that could have gotten people really trampled. But unlike the January 6 people who did not really interfere with an official proceeding, because the question is that an official proceeding under that statute? Probably not. We'll find that out from the Supreme Court shortly. And that'll upend a lot of those ridiculous summonses. But then he lied like a banshee about it. And then last weekend, you saw some of it, he conducted with AOC a really tasteless, disgusting, communist, filled with curse words and dirty words, like the communists are.
And Mayor, with about a fourth of the vote in, Latimer has taken a decisive lead over Bowman in that race.
So this guy's going to be kicked out. Good.
20-point lead.
Good. You know, if they focused on AOC, they'd get rid of her too, because she's just as stupid as he is, and she's just as low class. You should have heard her. We'll play that again at some point. We just have too much other to cover here. You should know that the border is unaffected by the Biden crackdown. No noticeable change. Still only 4 questions for the Chinese. Most of them come in, and we don't count them for months later because they come in on special parole. But if you gave that much money to the president, you could probably come in on special parole too. And they are closing down a detention center, which means they send more people. I used to run this thing. Like I tell you, there are 5,000 to 7,000 people walking the streets of New York that wouldn't be if I were mayor, or I think Bloomberg. And they're there because of Bragg and the payoffs of Soros, beating the crap out of people, killing them sometimes. Philadelphia, even worse. You see what happened in Philadelphia? Oh. Well, if we were back in the old Reagan administration, how did we handle the Mariolitos and the Haitians that came in illegally? Well, the Mariolitos had already been spread out all over the place by Carter, and they were committing crimes, mostly in Miami, but all over the place. They were only about less than 25% of the very decent, wonderful Cubans who came in, but he stuck them in between those. And he emptied out his insane asylums. And they were coming here committing horrendous murders, like these 2 guys, for no reason. Take a 12-year-old girl, bring her into a park, strip her, rape her, and let her go through 2 hours of agony before they kill her. Within, a couple of days, there's another one up in the other part of the country, up a place that I know well, Casino Park, place I used to go play golf, a park that my family used. Part of my family was very close to there. They find 2 12-year-olds. He takes a machete, rips the girl's clothes off, rapes her, and then it just goes on its merry way. And so when this guy shows up for the debate, he should be put in leg irons. And after the debate is over, put in prison. There's enough evidence to convict him 40 different times. And I'm willing to volunteer to prosecute it in front of any judge anywhere. I'll even go in front of Mershon. probably spend every night in prison. So there's going to be a challenge. In New York, the city council voted for non-citizens to vote. So now they're telling you their game, aren't they? Their game is to bring, they don't care who they bring in. Bring in animals, bring in rapists, bring in perverts who go after little children and women. We don't care. We're protected. If they come to Martha's Vineyard, we'll throw them out. You can have them. But they're going to vote Democratic because we indenture them. We make them slaves. And we're good at it because we're the party of slavery. We know how to do it. It's in our DNA. And look at what they're doing to the judge who's trying to be fair. Judge Aileen Cannon has made rulings. I don't even think she's been completely fair to Trump. This is her right here. That's Judge Cannon, lovely lady. There's not a ruling that she's made. The one reversed by the Court of Appeals, the Court of Appeals must have some real doozies on it. I mean, the courts are so stacked up against Trump, it's pathetic. They were during the election. They just weren't going to hear. They weren't going to hear a single hearing, which is why we had to go to the legislatures. But I mean, the decisions she's made they've given him like hundreds of thousands of documents and wanted him to go to trial. It takes a trial with this kind of discovery takes about 2 years normally to go to trial. They wanted him to go to trial in 3 months. She said no. The only one who wouldn't give him the proper time to prepare was Mershon, because Mershon's a completely dishonest, dishonorable creature of the most crooked Democrat Party in America, the Manhattan Democratic Party. Always has been, and I think they want to reassert themselves. There are times in which Chicago and Atlanta and Baltimore and have had Democrat parties that were as or more corrupt. There was a time in which every mayor in New Jersey was in jail. Looks like they may be going back to that. The Democratic leader for many years is going on trial now, and the senator is on trial. This is a pathetic political party. And this case is a completely ridiculous case. First of all, the statute doesn't have a criminal penalty. The statute is the Presidential Papers Act, has no criminal penalty. It doesn't have penalties about misplacing or whatever. There's no harm that was done by this. And she's treating it as such. And she's treating him like he has rights. Well, this has the judges nuts. They unethically intervene with her to try to get her off the case. The way the judge who had my case for the $145 million, she went around to the other judges and told them they weren't giving enough of a sentence to the January 6th people. That should be enough to get her thrown off all the Trump cases. Well, this woman has stood up for what she believes is right. She hasn't dismissed the case. She hasn't agreed that they've made out a case that there's no case here. I believe they have. I think she's wrong about that. But she is protecting his rights. I mean, there are two ways that you can think judges. There are three ways you can think judges are wrong. One way you can think they're wrong is out of an excess of a passion for your point of view. Well, you can see that happening if you're a lawyer and you believe in your client, right? And we give lawyers, except Trump lawyers like me and Eastman and so many others, the benefit of that doubt. Always have, so that we don't hold back in our enthusiasm for representing our clients. Well, I mean, they don't give us the benefit of that. They want to put me in jail for the rest of my life. And then you have the lawyers who really don't know. It's a fact. For example, they say there's no evidence that Joe Biden got any money. Like hell there isn't. There's a lot of it. And at some point we'll line it all up for you and we'll try to stick it here. And we can pull it out. But I'm going to give you the one that's really easy, that even prejudiced, lying scum can figure out. There's a written text, undeniably from Hunter Biden, to his daughter saying, I gave half of my salary for 30 years to my father, and I paid for all the family expenses during that period of time. Why was he doing that with the money that he got? Because the money that he got, well, yeah, put it up there, show him. Rudy's not making it up, but nobody else will show it to you but Rudy. Just like nobody else for years brought out Biden's criminality but me, and nobody else brought out the hard drive, even though the FBI had it for 9 months. They were content to have you go through that election with that thing buried forever. And then they had the audacity to bury it after I brought it out and let me and Trump be accused of being Russian agents. And that's Barr and Wray, who he appointed. So you want to know why I get angry about them? And I think they're slime? That's why I think they're slime. They're sitting there with this. It says two things, real simple. Hey, sweetheart daughter, for 30 years, I've been giving the old man half of my salary, half of my salary, half of my salary. And I've been paying all the expenses. Now you want to go into the hard drive and you want me to pull out the bills for fixing the air conditioners? You want me to put out the bills for putting out a new roof? Joe didn't pay it. Hunter did. Who the hell paid for Joe's daughter and Hunter's stepsister's education in college? Hunter. It's a way of laundering money to the old man. That's what the Chinese do. It has a name like gumshoe or gumshoe, blah, blah, blah. I'll get the name for you. But I mean, that is a killer document. I gave half of my salary for 30 years to my father, and the only product this family had to sell was Joe's office, which they did and screwed the United States. Why did Zlochevsky find him? Because it was well known that he was an effing crook. That's why. Everybody in Ukraine is puzzled that all of America doesn't know what a big crook Joe is. And they hate him because he extended the corruption there. And he was corrupt with Poroshenko, the guy that Zelensky beat. And why did Poroshenko lose? Because he was a well-known thief. And who put Zelensky in office? Another well-known thief named Kolomoisky, who comes back. And they're not whacking money up? I don't know. You think I got a right to be suspicious? Well, you don't have to think I do. I do. Judge. Don't let them get to you. I think they have with a couple of those Supreme Court justices occasionally. I think that's why they do it. They see weakness. They see weakness. You know, they don't see weakness with me. They don't see weakness with Bannon. They don't see weakness with Navarro. But they think they were wrong. They were wrong with a couple of them. Boy, you're not going to see Thomas or Alito back up one bit from what's right. Not one bit. You're not going to see Gorsuch do it. I think Kavanaugh and Roberts have got it. I think they see what's happening to their country. And yeah, they got to preserve the integrity of the court, but not really historically at the sacrifice of the integrity of the court for eternity. In history. That's what happened in 2020. They wanted no part of it. I don't think they realized how true it was. Now they know it's true. You can't have watched what they did to Trump in New York and not known how corrupt the forces are against him. You can't possibly think that these are individual trials that just were brought by individual people. This is coordinated by the White House. What the hell is Fannie Ho's boyfriend doing in the White House? Right at the time the case was brought down, other than trying to coordinate it with Bragg's case. How did the number 3 guy in the Justice Department go down there to make sure the case would go down right? Because Bragg waited until the last minute to bring it. Originally, he didn't think it was a case. He was right. But, I mean, he sold his soul a long time ago when the Soros millions came in. Well, Judge Cannon, just do what's right. That's all I ask. The case is not a crime. They've committed some of the worst crimes in the history of America, and they're prosecuting these people, including me, for things that are not crimes. And people are not sufficiently upset about it. Well, I got a few nice things to do. First, to say happy birthday to a man whose career I saw begin and I saw end. And it was one of the great careers in the history of baseball. And that was Derek Jeter, the captain of the Yankees for all those years of 5 World Series. 5 World Series, some of the greatest plays in the history of baseball. And something else. When Derek Jeter and Joe Torre and Bernie Williams and Tino Martinez and Jose Posada and David Cohn and then, of course, already on the team was Catfish Hunter and Darryl Strawberry, who came over from the Mets, and Doc Gooden and all. When they came to the Yankees were not the most popular team in New York. First of all, they had a big, long losing streak, and Buck Showalter had really brought them back. And credit to Buck, great manager. And then Joe, took him over, also a great manager. But they weren't the most popular. I believe it was the personalities of Derek and the manager and the people I just mentioned as a group that made the Yankees so popular. You couldn't help rooting for them. They were nice guys. And in all those years, with all the scandals for athletes, this guy, not a touch, not a thing. And Buck Showalter explained it. The first day he came up with the Yankees. Yeah, look at that catch. I remember that catch. That hurt his World Series performance because he was really injured badly. I think it might be the only World Series he didn't bat 300. He's got a 310 lifetime batting average, a 309 playoff batting average. Yeah, actually, he might have come back for the World Series, but he was playing like anybody else would have been sitting down. Number 2, Frankie Crossetti's number 2. What a guy. God. Dr. Jeter and his mom. See, a lot of power too. He wasn't a power hitter, but he didn't not have power. Let's put it that way. So I'll give you a couple of the highlights, right? You saw that catch against Oakland that helped to bring them back in the playoffs. I think when he made that catch, they were down 2-1 to Oakland. And and then this was a 2-1 game that I think Mariano was trying to save. Look at that catch. Now, there have been many of those. Also, the great flip catches. There's a big argument, who was the greatest shortstop, A-Rod or Garcia Parra were the two contemporaries, and defensively, very hard to tell them apart. Very, very hard. Offensively, A-Rod had the power, and Jeter had the all-round ability. That's the way I would put it. And Garcia Parra was right up there, right up there. But what he had was the special leadership quality. And it's the DiMaggio leadership quality, which the Yankees really like, a quiet leadership. Leadership by example. Leadership playing with the worst knee in baseball, like Mantle did, like DiMaggio did. Ankle in DiMaggio's case. Leadership playing, knowing you just gotten hit by a pitch and everybody else would take a day off and you didn't. Well, you'd go into the stands and you're ready for the World Series. and Troy can't even ask you. And in a city that rips its athletes apart at least once, no matter how great they are, never, nobody would touch Jeter. He once went 0 for 25 or 30. Impossible, because the other thing that he was not a streak hitter in particular. A-Rod, for example, was a streak hitter. Someone notorious, Tino. I mean, Tino would go forever, and then he'd hit 12 home runs in a row. And most players are streak hitters. But he had one very bad streak, and he batted first or second. It depended on whether we had a better leadoff hitter. Like when Knobloch came to the Yankees, Knobloch batted first. And Jeter, I think Jeter thought that was the best lineup. Jeter said he liked Knobloch as the number one hitter because Knobloch took 8 to 10 to 12 pitches at the very beginning of the game. He made the pitcher throw everything he had, and Jeter, standing on the on-deck circle, could basically see everything the pitcher had. And Knobloch was also a 300 hitter, and also on-base percentage of over 400. And then you had this contact hitter right behind him. And then the lineup would change a bit. Now, Jeter was also an excellent leadoff hitter for the Yankees. But I liked him best at that's the place I liked him best, in the number 2 position, because he was, I think, the guy that traditionally is considered the greatest Yankee number 2 hitter is Push-Em-Up Tony Lazzeri. And the reason he has the nickname Push-Em-Up is because he would always get you over to second base. He also would knock you in, and he's also a Hall of Fame player. I think he's got about a 320 batting average. Oh, he came up right before Babe Ruth, who came up right before Lou Gehrig. Can you imagine? Earl Combs was a leadoff hitter he only batted about 290, 300. And 3 of the 4 number 4 hitters on the Yankee team were in the Hall of Fame. Can you imagine facing him 4 or 5 times a game in any order? I don't know, Ruth first, Gehrig second. Well, the Yankees were like that, with Jeter anchoring it. I mean, Tino Martinez had a 41 home run year. Bernie Williams, I think he was most valuable player one year. Jorge Posada, unbelievable offensive catcher, unbelievable, great power. I think he just hit. What's Posada doing being on base when Jeter's hitting? Must have been a messed up lineup that day. The thing about Jeter was right-handed hitter. You say, well, how could that many home runs at Yankee Stadium? First of all, he knew how to pull the ball. That's what you just saw there. But I think, let's see if you're going to see his patented home run. That would have been to right field. He and A-Rod, when they played together, would destroy. There's A-Rod congratulating him now. And they do television together now. That's where he put the home runs. Thank you for showing it. Opposite field. He and A-Rod ate that place up. If you were pitching, you made one mistake, and one of the two of them would put it over there. Now that's a straightaway home run. Oh no, somebody caught that. Oh, he's coming all the way around from first. He tagged up at first and came. Look how calm he is. Now, I don't think, I've probably watched him play 1,000 times. If you count television, probably more. The worst he's ever done with an umpire is look at him. And whenever he did, he was always right. Because he argued very, very infrequently. But the minute, and I can't say enough about him. I cannot say enough about him. One day I brought a young boy who's autistic to Yankee Stadium parents were friends of mine. And, I bring him in, and he could be there at 5 o'clock, and he could meet all the Yankees, whatever. And they're all so nice to him. And then he starts saying to me, I have these 2 cards here. I have to get Jeter and A-Rod's signature, or my friends will, they'll say I wasn't at Yankee Stadium. I said, I think we can manage that. I think we can manage that. So I saw Jeter, and I said, Derek, would it be okay if you come over? And said, sure. He said, sure. Why don't we take him in the dugout? So he sits down in the dugout. This is like when you're getting ready he spends about 5 minutes with him. He gives him a couple of things, like a baseball glove, and a ball, his telephone number. Ever want any information about baseball? And he gives him a little pat on the head. Then somebody else comes up to him. I've forgotten who it was. And I explain who it is. He was having a particularly good season. And he acts like he doesn't know him. And he says, where's A-Rod? No, the guy says, you want my signature? I want A-Rod. I said, I'm sorry. I take the guy aside, I put my arm around. I said, he's special. He said, yeah, I know, I got that. I got it. He said, look, you stay here, son. I'll go talk to A-Rod. A-Rod may or may not play today. Oh. Yes, Jeter's going to play. I think he's going to play, but he's getting, he's in a tub. Okay. I think he said, could he come in? The guy went off and comes back. He says, wait about 5 minutes. And like everybody was there, his father and my wife and a couple other people. He said, Jeter said, A-Rod said, please just have one person. You come in with him because he knows you, meaning me. So I walk in. The clubhouse is pretty much empty with just a couple of guys maybe working at their lockers. Most are out there practicing. And Jeter is just finishing. Must have been a knee injury because he had it in a big tank.
A-Rod.
Yeah. A-Rod is just finishing. And he said, he told me, he said, you mind leaving him with him? I'm thinking, I said, okay, A-Rod, sure. Could leave. His father and mother now are nervous when I come out. About 10 minutes later, he comes out. Comes out with A-Rod, who's going to spend a little time on the field. He shakes hands with the father and the mother. The kid's he's got a glove. He's got 2 hats. He got baseball, and he's got a batting glove signed by Jeter, but by A-Rod, and he says, now they'll know I was there because I have A-Rod's DNA. I said, where? The glove. So that's what these guys are like. I mean, they're wonderful. They're wonderful people, and I think that I give Jeter a lot of credit for all of that, even the help with Strawberry, and who I love Strawberry, love him. He helped everybody. And he made a team of people who admired each other. Even when they would get angry, they'd get over it. Now, what about the Stanley Cup? We might as well do our sports right if we're going to do it.
Yeah.
We watched, after we finished last night, Ted and I were not sufficiently tired to go to bed. So what did we do? We watched the last period and about a third of the second period of absolutely fabulous game.
Yeah.
And only 1 goal was scored when we watched.
Yeah.
Tell him you're the hockey player, not me. I can do baseball, but
no, I'm writing up a new caption, switching from a happy birthday message to the Stanley Cup, of course, which went 7 games.
It's a wicked 7 games. 3-3.
That's right.
At the first 3 games, Edmonton looked like it stunk.
Yeah.
And Edmonton, remember, began the season 2-7. So he said, "Oh boy, they went back to that." Then Florida went to sleep.
Florida went to sleep. The Edmonton Oilers won 3 in a row.
Beat them 8-0.
8-1, 5-3, 5-1. The 8-1. And then Game 7 last night. And what's weird about this matchup, Mayor, you had the Florida Panthers, so the USA, right? We're supposed to be rooting for the USA versus Edmonton, which is Canada. But I had so much more in common being from Michigan. Anyone here that's from Michigan or the Upper Peninsula specifically?
I have to report this to Trump.
Hey, what did he do when he took over the ice rink, the Woolman ice rink? This is a great point to make. He said how terrible the quality of the ice was, right?
Right, he got it from Canada. Yeah.
Because they were getting it from Florida, where the Florida Panthers play. So what did he do? He switched it and started getting ice from Canada. At which point, the rink was never more popular, right?
Yeah, but it's only Democrats who root for foreign teams.
See, you're right. That's where at the end of the day I was happy.
That's why when we saw when you and I saw Biden getting ready to come down to Manhattan, we saw no American flags.
That was funny when you pointed that out, because now I look for that and it's so true. It's very bizarre.
American flags and Biden are like inconsistent.
Well, American flag, I hate to say it, but American flags in the Democrat Party. If you see an American flag on a car in front of a house or somebody with a flag pin, it's almost guaranteed to be
it's not a Democratic neighborhood even, because it would have been burned.
Yeah, that's such a good point. President Trump, and look, you're a part-time resident of South Florida. I've been going down there with you here quite a bit, so I find it weird.
I think if I were a hockey player, I would find it weird coming to the rink in 90-degree temperature.
In Sunrise, Florida.
I had a hard time with hockey in New York, like when they won the Stanley Cup
in June.
It was my first year as mayor.
Yeah.
And I thought it was just weird going to those. And my son was much bigger. My son was a hockey player, so he wanted to go to every game.
Yeah.
And they got John F. Kennedy Jr. was at the games. And they got
video clips of you. I watched 1994 Rangers documentary.
And then they let me and Andrew in the clubhouse. Then we had our first victory parade, and the Yankees and the Mets hadn't won in a long time, so we hadn't had one. Of the Knicks, we hadn't had one for, I guess, the '86 Mets was the last one we had, which was almost 10 years before. The Yankees went back to 78 or 78.
Yeah,
and the Knicks had a couple in the '70s, but New York was without.
You're not gonna.
Yeah, I guess we had we had the Super Bowl parade, but the first Super Bowl parade they had in New Jersey.
Oh, wow.
Because of course it's the middle of the winter.
Oh, come on.
No, the second one we had in Manhattan, the one when we beat Buffalo.
Yeah.
But it was still, it was 2 degrees out, and so you can't get quite the same thing. That Ranger parade, where there aren't as many Ranger fans or hockey fans as there would be football and baseball. But since every single one showed up, it seemed like there were.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's middle of summer or
54 years.
Yeah.
Now 30.
And it was after I didn't realize how good the Islanders were back in the day.
Well, the Islanders had come off like 3 championships, and 4
in a row. So
and then after that, at the time, we thought when we beat New Jersey, we had won because Edmonton was not that good a team.
Yeah.
But they played us right down to 7 games.
7 games? Oh, so that was just like this.
Yeah. But I always knew we were going to win. It wasn't like 3-3.
Yeah.
I always knew we were going to win because I knew we were better, and we just had to have.
And that 7th game being at home.
Yeah. And Messier took over.
Wow, that range.
Messier took over the last period, like McHenry tried to, but didn't succeed.
Yeah, McDavid.
Yeah, he must have played like.
They were gassed.
He must have played like 14.
How tired were they?
He must have played like 14 of the.
Yeah, that last minute they just couldn't.
And we had a great goal. Richter was a great goalie.
I was gonna say, was Richter the goalie for your Stanley Cup in '94?
Yeah, he was. He had been the MVP of the Olympics.
Wow, the Rangers. You guys had your moment right before the Red Wings started being good again. Well, I regret to inform you, Mayor, the New York Yankees right now in what you call the Subway Series, they're losing to the Mets 9-2, the top of the 8th.
I'm gonna go cry if you don't mind.
So maybe we'll watch the rest of that.
They've been having a tough time.
Mets are on.
The Yankees have been in the last 10 games 3-7. This will make them. 3-8, and they've had some big losses.
Wow.
They lost 2 out of 3 to Boston. They lost 2 out of 3 to Baltimore. They're rivals. So there's something going on.
Yeah.
I mean, something's got to get readjusted. It sounds like they're not hitting, because obviously not pitching this time, but not hitting either. Who was pitching tonight? Was it Cole? Who's coming off the disabled list?
We'll have to take a look.
Cole had a pretty good performance the first time out. And he was pitching against Baltimore.
Garrett Cole.
Yeah. Well, how many runs did he give up?
7. Oh, 6.
When the hell does he ever give 6 runs?
Yeah, that's not good.
Well, I must say, we don't want to get too detailed because it is a sports show, but I think Cole should have been brought back after the 4th, but that's okay. That's okay. It's only me. I don't see why you bring anybody back early. What's the point? You know how many times managers bring people back early and then you lose them for the whole season?
Yeah.
Okay, I've always wanted to manage the Yankees, so I'll tell you a good Derek Jeter story, a good Joe Torre story, and then we'll sign off for our show tomorrow night, which will be previewing the debate, and we'll get some people to talk about it, and I will give you all the debate experience that I have, including helping to train Donald J. Trump for his first debate, his second debate, his third, his fourth one.
You'll want to watch, you'll want to tune in on definitely Thursday and tomorrow.
And I'll give you my predictions for what, how I think it's going to go. And then we'll have be like watching the Stanley Cup again, except about 10 times more people. They think there'll be over 100 million people watching.
Wow.
Can't let that get in your head.
All the
You
networks.
can't. The last thing in the world you got to think of when you walk out there is 100 million people watching. You got to.
I deal with that. You've dealt with that.
Oh yeah, that's what I do. That's what I do. I remember when I made my first big speech, like to 20 or 30,000 people, and I was thinking to myself, 20. And somebody said to me, "It's just like talking to a jury." It's just,
there's no way it's like that.
Oh yeah, and I went up and I stood there. I was nervous. I just paused, looked at 2 or 3 people in the audience.
Yeah.
I'm going to start off by looking at them.
Yeah.
And then I gave the speech, looking around at the people in the audience. Then pretty quickly I started moving around, getting off the mic. You never have to worry about whether I was reading or not because I was walking around.
Is it overwhelming when you're in front of that many faces, though, I guess?
You get used to like anything else? At first, sure. At first it is. Okay. First it is. You teach yourself little things to deal with it, like what I just said. Pretend you're just talking to the monitor or whatever. But you don't want to do that. You want the better. My advice: pick people in the crowd, different parts. So you're going to move around, and go give different parts of the speech to them, as if you're talking to them. Particularly on a television speech that's going home, because you can give a great speech in the auditorium that isn't that good at home.
Yeah.
You know, you can be a little over the top in the auditorium because they're far away from you. But television is a very, very hot medium.
Yeah.
And I'm talking pretty calmly right now. And all I have to do is that, and it sounds unbelievable.
Yeah.
If I did that in Madison Square Garden, giving people, you hardly even notice it. So it's interesting. So here's the Jeter story. I was mayor for 8 years, and we had 4 World Series. We had seven championships. We were in all kinds of games, and I was not at every single one, but almost every one. And I had gotten the nickname the #1 Yankee fan. And also, as you know, crime went down historically. And Yankee Stadium had been a very dangerous place. One of the reasons George was going to move out, because people weren't coming there anymore. I mean, when I came in, the attendance was below 2 million. It was up to over 4. And people weren't going because they were, and we were working on things to keep them there, like building a enclosure around it like Shea Stadium had. See, Shea Stadium, when you come in it, you're already in the parking lot, which is surrounded by gates. The subway brings you in to the parking lot. Yankee Stadium, you come out in the street. So we were going to make it one big enclosure, one big park, Yankee Park. So when you came out, You came in the subway, but a lot of people took buses and other subway lines, and they had to walk. Plus, the parking wasn't all in one place, so they had to walk 2 and 3 blocks, and they would be the victims of crime. And George wanted to move the stadium to someplace else in New York, and my first inclination was, no, keep it there. And I said, I'll make it safe, don't worry. And we did. We did. No problems once we started having. Remember when Governor Bush and when the Yankees were in the playoffs with the Texas Rangers, and people asked him, is he going to come to the Bronx? And he said, it's too dangerous. I put out a thing showing that per capita he was safer in New York than in the 5 biggest cities in Texas, and said the governor should come here to be safe. So the funniest story with Jeter is this. After I'm mayor, first opening day after I'm mayor, and I would go to opening day all the time. And I wasn't sure whether to go on the first opening day because I was very solicitous of making sure that Mike Bloomberg, got his place. But he invited me to come with him. So we sat there together. Before the game began, when the Yankees took the field, for that last little practice before the first inning, a rather young, attractive young lady jumped over the third baseline, almost in that area where you saw Jeter make the catch. She jumps over. She runs like hell to Jeter. She gives him a note, and she tries to kiss him, which he, as he does everything else in life, he gracefully avoided. And then she runs to try to, and the cops tackle her like she's some guy. The people behind us lean over and they say to Bloomberg, when he was mayor, she never would have gotten on the field. And Bloomberg looks at them like, he would have shot her. I told Jeter that story. He said, well, we always had the feeling you would. I was not that bad. I really wasn't. But they were afraid of me. There's something to it. They were afraid of Trump, and that's why they didn't invade Russia. They were afraid of Reagan, and that's how we won the Cold War. You got to know how to use that. If you have wisdom, the left wing doesn't understand that. That's why they don't govern well. That's why they shouldn't govern at all. They should be. People just should know that they're too irresponsible to govern. They always have deficits and whatever else. So we'll be back tomorrow. We're going to add a little sports segment to the show. Next week, we're going to have exciting 2 hours from 7 to 8 and 8 to 9. 7 to 8, we're going to do some analysis, and then 8 to 9, we're going to cover the world. We're going to do a 360, and we're going to bring in some other subjects during that period too. We're going to do some sports. We're going to do we'll do some culture too. People don't know that us Republicans, even though we're deplorables, are very cultured. And then we'll get you some interesting guests, particularly with the election coming around. And of course, I guess we have to say a good deal of our emphasis, and the reason we wanted the 2 hours is so we can really spend time on the election, because we can't make a mistake. And I want to make sure that all of you have the information you need to go out and battle, do battle verbally, and also have the incentives to work like hell. Next, we're also going to face this issue of whether he goes to jail. Bannon goes to jail next Monday if it doesn't get put off. I talked to him the other day, and I just think they're doing it to keep his voice silent. We're going to have to pick up for him because they want him off the air. I mean, that War Room show, I mean, those people love him, and they love Trump. And he understands the Trump people better than anybody does, better than I do, better than Trump does. He's been a critical warrior for us. And they're going to have him out until 3 weeks before the election. And I was kidding around with them. Well, they let you broadcast from jail. And of course they don't. We're going to see if we can get in. And we tried to get in to see Navarro. They wouldn't let him do it. What the hell? Where are they, in the gulag? I won't even tell, I'm not going to tell you the prison he's going to be. I don't know if they want to keep that secure or not. But I know that prison like the back of my hand. A lot of nice places to put him in that prison. I mean, there's no nice places to put anybody in prison. But there are a lot of places you can put him and a lot of places you cannot put him. So when I find out where he is, if God forbid he has to go, I'll let you know if they're screwing with him or not. And I'll tell you what, they screwed with Navarro. They screwed with the J6 people. The Federal Bureau of Prisons never did that. Never. Under Republicans or Democrats. They've damn politicized it. And that's why they treated the J6 people like they were prisoners of war with a hostile power. We'll be back tomorrow. Keep yourself informed. Do a lot of it on your own so you don't depend on all these liars and thieves and bums and crooks and greedy people who are giving you false information. I hate to say count on us, but you can, and the Bannons, and the people like that, and Ted. Ted was pointing at himself, I think, and Ted. No, he's actually getting warm. We have the air conditioning off so you can hear me. But maybe it's better if we had the air conditioner on so I don't faint and they think I'm Biden. You know, at this point, after we've been on over almost 2 hours, at this point, they'd be bringing oxygen in for Biden.
That's live television. You never know what could happen, right?
Yeah, well, no, he's going to get 2 breaks. We did at least.
I wanted to point that out, Mayor. I know
he's going to sit down.
That's the biggest. Out of all the rules, the 2 commercial breaks, I don't like that.
How about this?
I don't like that.
If he sits down, Trump can stand up. I mean,
that would be funny.
I know him. He'd be very. Hey, come on, Joe, stand up. Come on, it looks bad.
Yeah, get up, and he won't get up.
Come on, it's not a good look. It's not a good look for a tough leader. Come on, get up.
I hope he just stands up in the middle of the debate and says, "Look, I can stand up. Let's say bare minimum. Stand up on my own."
Remember when he walked with Hillary?
Yeah,
he should just do a deliberate walk back and forth and say, "See, I didn't trip."
That would be good. But the 2 commercial breaks, that's uncommon, right? That doesn't happen in presidential debates.
That's right.
So that right there, you don't need it. I don't care about all the other stuff. Well, that gives him an out. What if he starts breaking?
Haven't they conceded that he's not prepared to be president if he has to take 8 days off to get ready for an hour and a half debate? But they're going to just ask him. I mean, we can predict 90% of the questions they're going to ask.
8 days, and he's supposed to be the president.
Like, how do you feel tonight, Mr. President? And then they'll say, Trump, why did you commit so many crimes?
Take a week off. Can you imagine?
God bless America. Pray for the Israelis. Pray for the Americans. Pray for all of our friends and relatives. Please, God, get us a president who'll keep us safe from the people who want to come here and attack our women and children. We need your help. And we are mindful of a Democrat's president's warning to us that here on earth, the work of God is ours. We got to do it. So God bless you. God bless America. Bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply our God-given